Okay, good evening. A late evening for me. This is the chart review for 4/25/2019, Thursday. So you can see we had a nice little sell-off early in the morning, and basically a panic buy up into the evening, and now we're back down to where we were. um, I gave these levels in the morning, and we'll cover these lines a little bit on the other chart. But you can see this was the bottom line that I gave this morning, and wow, nice little touch and gone. I think yesterday in the chart review I talked about this level here. I talked about this level here. I think I talked about literally like all of these levels that that all came into play today. Early this morning, I didn't know that it was going to quite sell like this. It definitely did slice through the levels, but for the bigger picture tomorrow, looks like we have some weakness here in the after hours. I could see it definitely pushing down through this level and testing the top of this particular node. In the bigger time frame, it also kind of matches up. I could see it bounce right here across this top part right here, and then definitely testing this and testing the bottom of this overnight, and getting a pretty good little bounce. We're down on the bottom side of this right now, so I would kind of expect that maybe we could bounce up into the close area, and get against this volume node right here if things were to rally overnight for some particular reason, but not really expected at this point. Boy, this chart's kind of nasty looking, isn't it? So you can tell it's a late evening because I'm just not prepared here. So 7:30 was right there, so we got a nice little sell-off into the open right here. You can see that it tried to do a push-up right here, ran into the volume of the pivot right here. Sold off, really kind of just sliced through this level. You can definitely see that, you know, they made an effort with the green candles right here. So delta was definitely positive. They definitely tried to buy into that line, but not strong enough. Blew through here. They started buying. The line became resistance when they got back up there and sold back down. Touched that bottom line right there, and really a great bounce. Came back up to the previous area, tested the top of what would be a little volume node right there, sold back down. This was a volume node right here, so basically found some support right there. Because this level had already been tested, it ripped right through it, made it right up here. So when I saw this wave right here, I put this on. This is the 50% right here. Lined up perfectly with this pivot right down here. You know, it was actually way before the volume of that pivot, but so 50%, it turned out pretty good right there. Nice little fall. We'd already kind of tested this area right here. It fell right through. Never quite made it down here, but definitely traded back up against this line as resistance. Tested my bottom line that I had. So all these lines were drawn in before the market ever traded here. This morning I gave all those lines out, and you can see how good they work sometimes. Broke structure, pretty much signaled to everybody in the market that we were going to go up when we broke this structure right here. They really tried to force it down, just couldn't do it. touched this level right here that had blown through before, but now it worked. Traded back towards that level, went through, definitely went through this level. This level doesn't seem to really have been a very good level, considering that everybody pretty much blasted through it the whole way, but it wasn't effective there because we just traded through it. There was like no volume or node right here, you know, that you would typically get if it was trading against it, and so it basically went through and then chopped it all up. Came back, line worked again right here, right on this node, also this volume node, and then boy, it was traded right through the line again, off to the races, ripped through this line, used it as support on the way back, ripped again through it, used it on support on the way back, went up, touched the very top of the line, and we had already traded right through here, so that didn't hold. Came back, used this line again, perfect, got stuck in a range right there. You can see that line actually started to play out finally. Ripped back up, touched it several times, tried to trade back down again. You know, the lines worked out pretty good today. A couple things to show you. So I believe that this leg right here, I can't remember, I thought it matched up with something else right here, but it looked just too big of a range, right? So what I had done pretty early on was I'd grabbed this and I drew this one in, and you can see that actually worked out really nice on that swing right there. And so I'm going to drag that guy over like that, and then if I duplicate him and we throw him up here, you can see he lined up just nice with that particular area. And the top of this actually, you know, right into that little trading spot right there. And if we duplicated this again, you would get this line right here all the way across. And if I can grab a hold of that, I can. But you can see he actually lined up over here on this other side. Pretty good symmetry right there. And let me see if I can grab this guy. And like if you drag him across, you can see that it also lined up here with the pivots. So those guys were definitely in play, something to watch. Another item right here, you know, I looked at the volume of this tippy top right here, pivot, and see how it hit right here. And now this trading down, you can see how many times it's tried to bounce off of this little shelf of volume down here on this volume node that I've got drawn in right here. So you can see how this little shelf right here, it bounced off of that at the close right here. This guy isn't anything right here. Kind of close him out, but thought I would share those little indicators of turning spots, and they were all pretty much close to being in line with the lines that I drawn this morning. They were just, I guess you could say, a little bit more refined. You know, sometimes price trades through. There's momentum, right? So, you know, I don't really show some of my oscillators and stuff like that, but they represent momentum. Just realize when an oscillator gets oversold or overbought, it's not really oversold or bought. It means there's a lot of momentum in the market. That's what a momentum indicator's pretty much telling you. You had a couple divergences here on the delta. You can see right here that they just really weren't buying up into this area, but you actually got to move up. And it was pretty much, you know, the force of the move was just kind of drying out at that point. You can see here you got a lower low right here on the chart, but a higher low on the delta. Um, Good indication of their selling pressure, but not a whole lot. They're not dumping like they were. Um, you can see that we got up over the moving average and stuff like that, and it was pretty much off to the races at that point. It's just kind of like the get below right here, and it goes down, and when it comes back to the line, you can see right here again coming back to the moving average. That was a pivot up here, right? Came back to the moving average. That was a pivot right here. Ripped across here, and you can see right at the line there's like one green candle right here where they tried to rally it and it just didn't work. But a lot of turns on the moving averages on the delta, so I tend to like watch the delta a lot. For the most part, it represented price pretty good. There's like hidden orders when they do limit orders, and all of a sudden you get weird looking deltas, and you know that somebody's secretly putting limit orders and taking things in certain directions and stuff like that. Trying to think of anything else that I can really show you. Everything was basically test the volume nodes, right? Here's a volume node, came back, tested it, bounced. Here's a volume node, came back, tested it, bounced. This got rejected off of this volume node, right? Pretty much this guy was against this guy. These first top ones were pretty much against this. So just got to kind of look where the volume is trading during the day, and the delta kind of gives you a hint on which direction you should be trading with if you want to take it. Just about every trade that I take is a counter trend trade, so I tend to always go against the path of the stock. So you just got to put it in context whether you're going to scalp off the level or not. Like, I wouldn't have took this line after it already been tested right here. You basically wore away those, your first line of defense at the line right there. Just like it came up here and it bounced off the line, but I wouldn't take it the second time that it comes up through it. Here, you can see that on first touch of the line, it did pull back, but it was only good for a scalp. It was a pretty strong little move, but it eventually, came back, used the previous line or the previous node, and was gone. You can see, same thing here. They were able to push it up and over and through, and never could quite get it back down. This line really wasn't a good area. Thinking context and stuff like that, when you look right over here, it pretty much just traded right through the line, and there wasn't really any volume or anything holding it back at that point. So this one, they definitely tried to push it back down, but at that point it just failed. At some point I probably need to show you how something like this works. So when professional traders trade, right, so maybe they go short somewhere in here, and now it's starting to move against them, and they add in up here in order to leverage in, and the stock doesn't move back down, and now they're trapped with multiple contracts, and they'll basically leverage in again at the next level. And what happens is they keep on leveraging in, and if the stock isn't pulling back, they're actually the ones that are feeding the market, because they're selling, right, and they're basically trying to push the market down. But as soon as they get to a break even, after they've leveraged in multiple times, they buy everything back, right, just to get out break even. And they're the ones that cause the fuel that rockets it higher, right, and traps more people, and then those people are adding on, and you really get into these back and forth battles at these areas, um, and they don't come back, right, because there's just too many people trapped. They're selling, but they're also the buyers. Once they've sold enough to leverage in, they're the buyers that caused the rocket, right? And so when you see this, you got to think that a lot of people are getting trapped. A lot of people getting trapped, and they're getting squeezed, and they're leveraging in, which is forcing the stock back. But at the same time, as soon as they get to a break-even area, or they know that it's probably not going to go any farther, they basically buy their stuff back, and you get these crazy moves that don't stop. That's why you get these huge, big old moves like this. Again, look how down here on the delta, look how strong this is, right? Think about everybody that bought into this, and those people, they had to get back out if they were shorting this because of this run, right? And they were still shorting it, and then they got bought into this. Boy, they had to sell back out and get out of it. So you get those crazy moves. I don't know if I've got anything else to say. I've already kind of talked about for tonight. You've got a lot of support down here, a lot of support. So don't expect too much of a sell-off here. You've got a little bit of a node right here, but you got quite a bit of node here. So, I mean, I would only expect really things to only kind of come back up to this line by morning. So, and then the PBT doesn't show up till 4 or 5 o'clock my time, and then at that point they usually try and push things through and make sure that they're breaking structure. So once they break structure, right, once they push it over structure, that becomes support. So it's usually critical for them to push over a level, because you can see, all of this trading right here, once they were able to push it down through, it became the resistance, and when it came back, it sold back down. And I mean, that's why stocks trade back and forth. They're just ping-ponging back and forth between the volume nodes. But we'll call it an end for the day, and see you in the morning.